listen.
Never in my life associated the word boring with baseball.
We know what's up.
Me? Yeah. Famous? Yeah.
And I'm like giddy over there smiling like, we're about to win this shit.
Did anyone give you crap? Give me a good host story.
I'm not picking it up.
We both love the game.
We talk about it every day.
Can't get enough baseball.
Having some popcorn, you're fooling around your phone.
I'd have to wait in line for 3 hours.
Hang on, because it's about to be a wild ride.
All right, there's no human being that I'd rather talk to right now than Sarah Tiana. It's a fact. It's a fact.
Yeah?
It's a fact. It's a fact. I say that to some people, Sarah, and I only half mean it. I absolutely mean it right now. Absolutely. So
okay, are you going to tell me why?
Yeah, because I think that we have a lot to talk about. I have watched you from afar in terms of your baseball fandom. I appreciate it. I appreciate what you're doing on MLB Network, right? That's every week?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Once a week on off base. Yeah.
Okay. So all of it. And I also I do want to talk about the roast stuff, the roasting. And I'll start right there because the first time we met and never met, the first time we were, and maybe the only time we've been in the same room was the David Ortiz roast.
Oh, yeah. My first run-in with Gronk. Yeah.
Yeah. And so so Sarah, that was at the House of Blues. And we'll get to your baseball fandom and all the good baseball stuff. But I had to ask, so I honestly, and I tweeted this out during the roast after everyone said, someone brought up the David Ortiz roast. And he said, "Oh, well, so-and-so was the best." I said, "No, Sarah was the best." And I know what you're going to say. Because I've seen you interviewed about this before that, you had partaken you have imbibed in some drinks before, right?
That was Catherine Veritek's fault. She's the one that was, yes. I don't know what she put in my drink, but it was definitely on an empty stomach, whatever it was. And thank God for teleprompters. I'll say that. Thank God for teleprompters.
But I don't know, however you did it, I honestly said that was the best. She was the best. You were the best. And
thank you.
Yeah, so that was when we talk about athletes roast, because spoiler, you wrote for help write for the Tom Brady roast. But that one was what I remember, Sarah, is that they had the camera set up. Now, listen, it wasn't Netflix.
For Nesson.
It was Nesson.
No, it was Nesson.
Right.
Yeah.
And how quick did they take the cameras down?
Very quick. Yeah. It was, it was like they all got sucked into the big dig at once. They were just like, they're as fast as Belichick put them up in the Colts locker room, Nesson took them down. Like, it was so fast. And I don't even know where it started, like who went up early enough to make that call, but Gronk is usually like pretty Gronk in his full Gronkness. But then, they're also just cursing and, calling me a whore or whatever they do, I think you remember that first joke that I told of like, everyone has been up here calling me a whore, and that's giving me a lot of credit. My list of sexual partners is like Dustin Pedroia. It is embarrassingly short.
And that's where you had me right there. That was, yeah.
I also personally loved Anthony Mackie is here tonight. Only because we wanted someone to be racist too, and Adam Jones had a game. It was like right after that.
Oh, yeah.
It was kind of fun.
The Pedroia line was awesome. So, and Pedroia actually, if there was proof that anybody can like get on the coattails of great writing, it's Dustin Pedroia in that. I know Pedroia. I've known him for forever. And there's certain people, probably the same way with the Brady roast, where you're like, I know that we wrote this for him, but I'm not that confident they're going to be able to execute it. This isn't fielding a ground ball,
Yeah. So. Yeah. It's difficult. It's difficult with athletes, and because you just like, well, also when it's a big production like this, it's a little different, when it's a roast that's not going to air, it's kind of like a local market roast. It's like you do whatever you want to do, but this is, Netflix spent more money on this live event that they've spent on anything in the history of Netflix.
Is that true?
So
I didn't know that.
yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it is like one of their biggest budgeted shows. And, like everyone, they didn't even really show them, but everyone had bracelets that were like going off synonymously, like the Super Bowl, like there was, it was very, on top of just 15 people that you have to pay, get in town, travel, live event, camera, the software just to make sure it goes live and that there's no technical difficulties. Like it was a pretty intense, I mean, they got me like 2 swag sweatshirts.
All right.
The roast of Tom Brady. Like there's so much stuff. Like even Tom like asked for our addresses, so maybe he's sending us something. Like, we spent 5 weeks in that room. Well, 6 of us were there for 5 weeks, and then everybody else kind of like came in the last 10, 12 days, which is really when you need the push. But yeah, when it comes to athletes and like getting them to tell jokes and, understanding them, football players are a little different,
Really?
Football players are
First
pretty
question.
smart.
Football, baseball.
Smart?
Yeah, well, yeah. Who would, if you said, okay, I have to take one for to generalize, of course, but if you're going to take one for a roast, you baseball, we've had both.
Yeah, I think it'd be hard because like there's just so many more football players that you have to choose from who are like loudmouth, talky, like better targets. Baseball players aren't as easy a target. I remember we were supposed to roast Steve Garvey and Dave Winfield, like whenever the All-Star game was in San Diego, whatever that year was, might have been after Poppy. So
Yeah,
I don't remember when that was, but it didn't end up happening. And it was like kind of hard. You're like, well, now with Steve Garvey, you're like, like I have a lot more now, but like back then I didn't have as much. And yeah, so I think, just when you want somebody to perform, I guess like either you need a real personality.
Yeah, baseball players are, we've said this is we've done podcasts and everything else on this, is that they're more wary of their brand than so but
it's also they're also just like not a chatty bunch, like there's not a lot of run-ins where the whole team, like on a football field, both teams are in each other's faces the whole time, so there's a lot of chatter. And in baseball, nobody even high fives at the end. Like you don't have to talk to anybody,
No, they're
and
exchanging.
if you're like Javi Baez, you're not even going to get a hit and talk to anybody on the base path. So like, there's not even a chance of talking to the other team. You might be able to talk to the catcher when you go up. That's about it.
By the way, it's Tristan Casas, he actually, for whatever, a roast down the road. We were in spring training this year, and Jackson Holiday, he walks across the field, and Tristan Casas breaks off, walks over to him and said, Jackson, I just want to introduce myself, Tristan Casas. I play first base. Come by and say hi.
No, don't come by and say hi.
I said, like, how do you think the pitcher's like that, Tristan? I mean,
oh my God.
But I do want to talk about that stuff is fascinating about the Brady roast, which, I mean, you've already told me like 5 things that I didn't even know. And believe me, like everybody else, we've been obsessing over this for the last couple of days. But to go back to the Ortiz one, there's 2 elements of this. Number one, you have a great perspective of Gronk. So I said, all right, yeah, Gronk's off the rails at Brady. I feel like he was more off the rails at the Ortiz thing.
Yeah, I mean that was a younger Gronk that was in, a Gronk that wasn't in a relationship, that was a Gronk that was still playing, right?
Yeah.
So like Yeah. Like younger partier. He slowed down a little bit, but he's still like the first question he asked us when we had our first Zoom with him was, is there an after party? And then we were like, yeah, there's two. And he goes, okay, cool. So I don't have to plan anything. We're like, no, you don't have to plan anything. Just stand there and read. And yeah, I mean, he's good. He's very aware of his brand. But the one at Poppy, he was, yeah, like, I just remember backstage him being like, I don't have any material about Josh Wolf. Like, I need some stuff about Josh, because Josh kind of put it together with David. And I was like, well, he was on Chelsea lately. He has kids, 2 of them that he adopted. He's Jewish. And Gronk was like, he's Jewish? Like, it was like he lit up. And he was like, oh, I can do that. I've heard jokes about that. Probably because, he played with Edelman. So he's like, oh, like racking his brain for all the stuff he's made fun of Edelman about.
Me can do a joke on that. And the other part of it was, I also remember, and I was thinking of this when Brady got up at the end, is that it's such a long thing and they're drinking the entire time. And Ortiz couldn't even like stand up at the end. He couldn't, and love David, but he couldn't form a coherent sentence by the end, just because.
But that's not the alcohol. That's just the way he talks. That's just his accent.
All right.
No,
So
I'm just kidding.
No, this is the next, believe me, I know, but this is the next level of that. So when Brady gets up there, I'm thinking the same thing. I'm like, whoever does these, the last person is going to be shit-faced. Like, it's science, Sarah, right?
Well, I don't know if you know a lot about Tom Brady, but his whole brand is self-control. Like, and even Gronk was like, I'm not going to drink until I go up. And we were like, okay, we'll see how that goes. And he didn't, and it's like, they're all very disciplined. And I knew that, and Tom was nervous. And so he was like, I'm going to take a couple shots. Or what did he say? The last thing he was nervous about, he like took a shot and he was like, but this time I'm going to take 3. I forget what he was, something. Oh, before. No, it wasn't 80 for Brady, because he wouldn't have, I don't remember what it was. But anyway, he said I think he probably did 1. And then he was just kind of sipping it. And you could see when he finally kind of relaxed, like probably about the 8th Giselle joke, which was by the 2nd roaster. And then all of a sudden it doesn't hurt anymore, because you're like, well, once you've heard 1, you might as well hear 80. Like, it's like nothing's gonna hurt worse. And he knew that they were coming. Like, he would, he knew, I don't think he knew it would be the first one, but yeah, he was very aware that they were coming. So he knew to pace himself. It was supposed to be a 2-hour show, and ended up being 3.
Is that true? It was
3 hours and 5 minutes. Originally, it was going to be 90 minutes. Then we got a pay raise because they realized it was going to be 2 hours. And I was like, there's no way it's going to be 2 hours. Like, so I predicted 3 the whole time. And I think it was 3:05, 3:06.
Yeah.
But they just edited it down to 2 hours, 59 minutes, probably because they would have had to, per Writers Guild, give us another raise. But instead they gave us sweatshirt. So.
Much like this podcast where we give you T-shirts. So yes, we pay in apparel. But so I promise I want to get into your baseball acumen and your entertainment and your love for the game. But so you go back to, you said it was 5 or 6 weeks that you were working on this. So the first thing I want to go back, and I don't think this is a great perspective. When the first time that you hear, we want you to write for the Tom Brady roast. Okay. Really?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
well,
yeah.
Go ahead. I mean, I've written on 6 roasts, I think, for Comedy Central. So I'm already like in the mix. And Jeff Ross gave me my first job ever. So I work with him on tons of stuff. And him and I he couldn't do this private billionaires roast in December. So he called me and had me do it. So like he asked me to do the Tom Brady roast 2.5 years ago, because that's when we were originally supposed to do it.
Really?
But then Tom came out of retirement and got a divorce. And we were like, maybe we'll just wait. Maybe we'll wait a second. We'll let that breathe. And then all of a sudden I heard it was back on. And it was like, and then, Jeff is immediately bombarded. And I was like, just I was kind of fielding other offers for other shows that I was supposed to be working on. And then, but my manager and the agents, they also represent Jeff. And they were like, I think we should wait. It looks close. And yeah, I mean, I was so happy. I just wanted to work on it for like a day. I didn't even care. And then they came back and said 5 weeks. And I was like, yes, like to be able to be in there from the beginning so that you can kind of have control over segments and sections and not really sketches, but just like bits, angles, that's really important in the early process.
So when you, like you said, having done these, everybody's different. And every time every time someone says, oh, we're going to roast this person, you're like, oh, really? Like that's first of all, that's awesome. But how's that going to work? I felt like this was the ultimate, holy shit. Like, how is this going to work? Like you said, Tom Brady, the ultimate controlled, buttoned up, like this is how he presents himself. How's this going to work? I don't know in the ones that you've done, if you've had that feeling more or less, or you just like, okay, we'll do it. We've done this before. We'll do it for Tom Brady.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I wasn't hesitant at all. And I knew it was going to be good. I didn't know how good it was it ended up being way better than I could have ever possibly imagined. And like by the last week, we were like, this is going to be a really good show, just because we had a better, clearer idea of all the scripts that we had written for the non-comics. So like as the writer's room, we don't write for the comedians, they write for themselves, or they hire their own people, their own friends that they trust. But for us as a writer's room, we write for everyone that's not a comedian. So whether that's Kraft's toast or Kim Kardashian's toast or Ron Burgundy, like whatever that is, it comes through our room. So we touch everything else. And yeah, I think, early on we had a couple Zooms with Tom, and most of those Zooms were like, well, who do you want on the dais? He's just like texting people in his phone. We're like, oh my God. Like, then of course, Mike Gibbons, our head writer, is like, don't throw that phone away. Like that one. We really need that one, Tom. So wait till after the roast to throw that one away, or whatever you do with your cell phones normally. And great joke. And then yeah, I mean, he said, like, I've been watching all like he was watching every single roast over and over again, just to like get in the mindset, because he's a film guy, right? He watches tape.
Yeah.
And then he was like, I want to go hard. Like, I want to go hard. Like, nothing's off limits. I want to go hard. Now, universally, like, it's just like an unwritten rule on roast that you don't go after kids, unless the kid is like famous and also famously a moron. Then,
yeah,
it's fine. But it still would kind of be up to the person. So, but like, that wasn't even an issue. Like, Tom didn't bring it up and we didn't have to. It was just like, we don't go after kids. Wife? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, you got it.
She's a public figure.
It's half the show, right? It's go.
She hasn't exactly been hiding from, so, yeah, he was like, I want to go hard. I'm good. And, but we're like, what's your definition of going hard? You know what I mean? Like, everybody, like, people say, I want hard jokes. And then you give it to them and they go, oh no, I don't, no. Does that mean people are going to be saying this about me? So you have to be really careful when you start sending scripts out that you don't scare people away.
Yeah.
So you can always turn up the, turn up the
Oh yeah, as it goes,
the
to get comfortable. Here you go.
yeah, it's a little bit
Yeah.
harder to unwind the clock. So, but to his credit, he came in on this last Tuesday, after we've been talking over and over again about different things he wanted to address and talk about. And then he read through the script. He was just like almost in tears laughing at the initial script. And there are certain things he was like, I can't do that. I can't do that. Like, I just don't want to go there. Like, let's keep it, football or whatever. And we're like, all right, And then he specifically said he wanted to go after, like, to bring up Goodell and Deflategate. And then this guy, Ray James, in the room, like one of the greatest roast writers of all time, we're sitting there and Brady's like talking like, well, Goodell said it was like more plausible than not, and they spent $20 million. And then Ray's like, they could have just given you the 20 million and I would have said I did it. And everybody in the room like died. And then Brady's like, yeah, that's exactly what I want to say. So we're like, cool, quite the moment. And yeah, he was into it. And everything is just like, well, what's your real feeling? What do you really want to say? What do you want to say about Gronk? What do you want to say about Julian? And so you kind of get how they feel about everybody, and then you just start crafting.
Man, this is much more organized than the David Ortiz roast.
Oh yeah. yeah. This is a Writers Guild show. It's like it was.
Yeah. So the cliche question is there a joke that you're like, and I know that you go through this, but is there a joke where it's executed and you're like, not, and maybe, maybe a lot has been made of the Brady going up to Jeff Ross about the Kraft thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds like, what you hear is that people didn't know Kraft was going to be there or something. Is that right? Or
yes, that was also kind of a surprise to everybody. But Jeff and Tom are producing partners. They sold the roast to Netflix and this show. So moving forward, they are producing partners together. So they don't have any issue. Jeff is the one that got Tom to do this, and Tom wanted to do it because he loves Jeff. And so there's zero animosity there. It's more just like, Brady was also chasing Gronk around when he mentioned his sisters. He's just like, it's like a fun room. It's a live room. Like everyone's just hanging out. And so it's more of just like objection, because Brady sees his boss, a guy. I mean, Brady's trying to buy the Raiders. Like, like he loves Robert Kraft. It's like his dad. So he's like, don't talk about my dad. It's more of just like that, but it was like all in fun. And it wasn't like, I'm going to quit. Like, I'm mad at you. Like, no, like it was never anything like that.
what was your best joke? Again, a cliche question. I apologize. But what was the one that you were like, I was really, really proud of that one?
Oh my gosh.
I feel like that's a cliche question. I feel like right after the show, someone might ask you that. No?
I can't even remember. Well, I can only remember what happened the last day. I remember Kevin took a joke that I wrote about Jeff Ross being OJ, about how Jeff mourned the loss of the waiter more because that's the guy that brought him his food. So I really liked that one. Gosh,
it's okay.
I can't.
It's a lot. It's
like
it's
all
okay.
the other thing is too, like normally on a Comedy Central roast, we would like get an assignment, like everybody go write jokes about Drew Bledsoe, and we would like go off into our little cubbies and all write jokes, and then we would turn them all in. We would read them as a room. You bold the ones that you like, and you put them into a bank, like a joke bank. This roast was completely different. There were only 6 of us at the beginning for the first 3 weeks, and we wrote so many scripts just as a room. So it was like we had all had jokes here and there, like we picked out jokes that we liked, and then you just start crafting like an idea, like you're crafting Bledsoe's script And you know, he has certain things that he wants to talk about. Like he was really obsessed with talking about the fact that Tom Brady had a yellow Jeep, like that he thought that was gay. We're like, okay, sure, all right. I mean, if this is something that's really important to you, we will make sure it's there. And so, you know, you do that, and you get him to say, you know, I'm not saying Tom Brady's gay, but he sure did fuck me. So, you know, I like that. He delivered it perfect. Like
Yeah.
like he worked so hard and long on his script. He did such a great job. Like he was very invested in the whole process, back and forth, back and forth. Him and his brothers and his friends adding jokes, and we'd be like, well, that's a very funny joke. Unfortunately, it was already told on the Bieber roast, so we can't do that. Just he had jokes about Shaq in there in the beginning. We're like, Shaq's not going to be there, but still a funny joke.
I like you personally.
You know, love it. So, you know, you could tell, like, the people who are super duper invested obviously had the better sets. And you know, we worked with Tom for a whole week. He sat in the writer's room with us he was with us for 3 hours on Tuesday, just like working this, but not this. I like this. I don't like this. Let's go after cities. Let's talk about Goodell. Like, and then but then like, yeah, I don't know. I'm like, well, I really liked Belichick told the joke that I wrote about. A lot of people don't know, but I have a big heart, which, by the way, people started laughing when he said big heart. And he was like, that's not punchline. You know, I rescued a dog from the shelter and Randy Moss from the Raiders. I really liked that one. Yeah. That was like a last minute ad.
He did pretty well. Like, this is, again, like for me, I'm happy he's here, but is he going to be able to execute? You know, but he did. Yeah. He did.
No, yeah, you just never know, you know, like there was a lot of back and forth with him once we convinced him to come, you know, like a lot of people didn't totally understand what a roast was, you know. Even Randy Moss got there, he was like, oh, Tom's talking too, you know. We're like, oh, Randy, like, I know they have TVs in West Virginia, but maybe not on the lake, so it's fine. But you know, I think Bill just like kind of, you know, it's like your dad being there at your prom where you're like, you know, I think he thought like, I don't want to take away from the fun that they're going to have. And then they were like, no, we would love it. And then he was like all in and just like giggly about everything. Like he was backstage with me. Like we were all backstage waiting, like any of the special guests waiting to go up. And, you know, he's just sitting back there, just like just like laughing at all the jokes, like having the best time, you know, clearly loves to laugh, like a really, really good guy. And I think, you know, I think the whole shots thing with Kraft was really taken out of proportion. Like people thought like, oh, you know, he was hesitant to do it. I go, no, he's a beer guy. And when you're a beer guy, you're not like, sure, I'd love tequila. Like that's not, because if I'm him, and I don't know what he was thinking, but if I'm him, I'm like, is it liquor before beer? Have no fear. Beer before liquor, never thicker. Okay, so I can have this now. You know, like in my head, I'm doing the math, and then I'm like, oh right, cheers. Like, well, I think he just didn't want to take a shot of tequila. It wasn't that he didn't want to do it with Kraft.
Sarah, let's be honest. There's like almost everybody there. They're thinking, okay, we have to execute the show, and then we have to execute the after party because we're never right. I mean, it's not a lie. So,
yep. I mean, yeah, it was. Yeah. There was a lot going on, and it was a really long night. And I was really proud of how everybody paced themselves. Like nobody got.
Yeah, that's always the best. Yeah.
It all like went by. It went super fast. 3 hours, like it went so fast.
By the way, I'm going to morph. This is an expert way of morphing the roast talk to the baseball. What baseball player was sitting there fairly close to the stage?
You talking about Uke?
Yeah, Uke. Yeah, Uke.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, I mean, he's like family.
I
He's
know.
a relative.
I know, but it was so weird. It was so weird when Netflix had the shots, and I forget who it was. Maybe it was Dana White. I don't forget, but he was
Uh-huh.
just randomly, because we see Uke a lot. He does the
Yeah.
Netflix broadcast, and so, but this it was like, and we all know Uke's married to Tom Brady's sister, but still, it's like, oh, there's Uke. It's okay.
Yeah.
Baseball players are allowed. There you go, representing. I love
No. Yeah, baseball players, like I think a basketball player, Sabonis, was supposed to be there. I don't know if he ended up being there. And then like, yeah, we had UFC fighters, and Jay Justice was there.
it. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
He was sitting with Kyle Shanahan. I don't know why they put them together, but
Well,
you both once were in Atlanta.
it worked. All right. Well, I truly appreciate you going through this stuff. I know it's not, baseball isn't boring. Roasts aren't boring. Well, I mean, one goes without saying. We don't have to make up T-shirts say roasts aren't boring. It's like the most obvious thing of all time, right? But so just talk to me a little bit, if you can, about your fandom, about your Braves fan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lifelong.
Very
Braves
much so.
fan. Yeah,
Lifelong. Yeah. My whole day is determined on whether or not the Braves win. Like my happiness throughout the day. Actually, I need to check and see if the Phillies won. I'm hoping that they lost. The only thing better than a Braves win is a Phillies loss. Yeah.
Oh, really? They lost.
Lost.
All right.
Ha ha. Finally.
So
Harper.
this is the second Braves related guest we've had on this week.
Oh.
I'll give you $1 if you can give the other one.
Braves guest?
No,
Like fan?
No. Come on. No. This only high profile Braves people.
Oh. Mark Lemke.
Close. Alex Anthopoulos. He was on a couple days ago.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah.
Did he say if we're gonna go try to get a picture before the free agency deadline?
He was actually really good
Trade
talking
deadline?
about the deadline a couple years ago when they were sort of wallowing, and then they started trading for players, and everyone like, what are you doing? And then you end up winning. So he was just really, really good. Chris Sale's been on. He's really Chris
Sale is exactly what we needed in Atlanta.
Chris Sale would be excellent on a roast.
Oh yeah. You talk about bringing some fire.
Oh,
It's just like everybody, all the water coolers just like are on high alert.
yeah.
Watch your back. Watch your back.
Yeah.
You suspect, you might get hit. Yeah, everybody's gonna get hit. Jeff Ross and a water cooler. Everybody's getting hit. Yeah, you know what? I think that's what we were really missing, is a guy that like brought some animosity and a little bit of fire to the dugout.
Yeah.
And, like that's what we've been missing for a couple of years. Like ever since Jock Peterson left, like we need somebody who's like, we are those motherfuckers. You know what I mean? Like amping them up, hyping them up, yelling at them, getting in their face, pushing them. And like, that's exactly what he brings. So I'm pretty stoked about him being there. And, I didn't know he was going to have this much pressure on him to really, have to be so much of the guy with Strider gone, but he's definitely lived up to the expectations, and like him and Morton just Ben Gaying themselves up and getting out there. I love it.
It's not that complicated. It really isn't. I mean, who needs TB12 when you have Ben Gay? So yeah. But so I want to ask you, this is a question we've also had about, and I saw somewhere I'm the one keeping score in the stands, or this is a dividing line for a lot of baseball fans. When you go to a game, do you keep score still?
I do, but only for Braves games, really.
Yeah,
I don't bring my book for just a random game. Like if I'm gonna go see a Dodger game, and if it's Dodgers Padres, I probably won't keep score. Sometimes I do. If I go alone, I also love going to baseball games alone.
Do you really?
It's a big rule whenever the Braves are in town that I get to go to one by myself.
Really? That's boy. I've had the long debate. Do you go to movies by yourself? And I'm a big movie by myself person, because I'm like, what are you gonna do? You're not talking, to the person. Right. And so, but games to yourself, like games with yourself, like next level, right?
The best. Because I can buy one awesome seat. Could sit. I don't have to buy two, because Chris and I have a rule, because Chris is, my guy that's my boyfriend who's on the Rich Eisen show, big Red Sox fan, big Patriots guy. So, if it's your team, you buy the other person the ticket for the game. The Braves are in town, I buy Chris and I a ticket, or whatever, the whole family. When the Red Sox are in town, he buys them. We're not married, so our money's separate. That's why this is important. And but he knows that like at least once I get to go alone and just like, I don't listen to anybody. I sit exactly where I want, which is if I can get the ticket, which is where I can see into the dugout. And if I can't sit next to the dugout, then I go sit by the bullpen so I can see who's warming up.
That is awesome. That is so awesome. Yeah. I mean, I can't even think. I'm glad. First of all, your reasoning for it is awesome. And then just doing it is awesome. I was going to ask you this question, because this is, like I said, we've had this conversation with baseball players. I had Tristan McKenzie of the Guardians. He was excellent answering, which is, what is the best of a sporting event to go to? Now, it first came up, Rob Manfred. So I did a book with Joe Kelly. So if you don't like Joe, I hope you like Joe.
No, I do. Who doesn't like Joe?
All right. So go next time you go to Dodger Stadium, take a picture. I mean, what other middle reliever has a 30-foot mural on the wall, right? But we did a book, and he interviewed Rob Manfred for an entire chapter. It was 45 minutes, me transcribe it. And one of the things that Manfred said was, it's indisputable that baseball games are the best sporting event to go to. And that made me think, I'm like, he's right. And so we asked these other people about it, and here's my reasoning, and I'll let you give yours if you want. But it's with hockey, with basketball, with football, you go and you're just this. With baseball, it can be a social thing. You're thinking about your day. You're talking to whoever, in your case, you're just thinking about life. And then something happens. And then you think about the 50 elements of how that happened. Like, there's nothing like that. Anyway, I've given for you is that I would imagine you think it's the same way, right? Or maybe.
Yeah, I mean, 100% baseball games are the most fun to go to, because also, it's relaxing. I think baseball parks also have the best food. So I don't even think that there's a debate. You can sit outside, you can get sun. There's a lot going on. And then I think my favorite thing about baseball is, I know that the game is sped up a little bit more now, but it's just a relaxing afternoon with something on the line and an entertainment program. And if you happen to not be looking, like sometimes I'm looking down and then I'll hear a crack of the bat, all of a sudden you're on alert. Like, where did the ball go? Who hit the bat? Where did it go? Right? You can't hear a football be snapped in football, and you can hear dribbling in basketball, but that could be anywhere. And I also think it's the only sport where if you watch it on TV and you watch it in the stands, it looks exactly the same. Like, you can see everything that's happening. With football, if you're sitting, like even sitting close, far, like you can't tell what's happening all the time. I think it's a little bit harder to see. Basketball, you can at least see if the ball goes in, but I think in a baseball game, you can see the ball being caught, you can see the ball being hit, and like the spatial awareness just with your own eyes makes it a lot easier to consume in person.
These are good answers, man. Oof. They are. I mean, so
you have a long history of going.
Oh, well, that's what I was going to ask. So this is.
I've been having this debate in my head for 10 years. No.
Why now I get to verbalize it. But finally, this is another thing, is that when we were doing the book, I asked people like the first time you went to a ballpark, and it was funny because the vivid memory of it for everybody is the constant. Another constant is sort of, and I don't want to steal this from you, but it feels like the greens are greener, the whites are whiter, everything is, goodness, like this is crazy. With Nate Cordry, when he was on, he talked about the urinals in the at Fenway Park. So I mean, you remember different things, but for you, do you remember that? Was it in Atlanta, or where was
Fulton
it?
County.
Fulton
Yeah, I
County.
mean, I remember Fulton County, like nobody going to the games, like the team was so bad. You'd have 2 extra tickets, you'd put them on your windshield, you'd come back and there'd be 4, like nobody went. But I, as a kid, I loved Chief Nakahoma and like just like that whole element of the game and the ballpark. But I also like the reason I got into baseball, I was born in the East Bay. Like all my family was Oakland A's fans. My grandmother worked for the team. She like gave out the free stuff at the gate or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And then she had season tickets and she'd go and sit at her seat and keep score. And so like that's how I learned to keep score and stuff. So my earliest memories are in Oakland Coliseum, which luckily still look exactly the same. Like not a lot has changed, but I went back this last year expecting it to be this like trash dump that everybody always talks about. And I loved it. I was
Did
like,
you?
oh, it's so nostalgic. It's like, to me, it's like going to Fenway a little bit. Like nothing, it's still exactly the same. Even Chavez Ravine, it's pretty much exactly the same. They just keep expanding the seats and changing it and making it like a little bit more frou-frou for everybody.
Yeah.
But like, I do love those old ballparks. Like they're old, they smell like they're from the 60s, and it's like, it's great. Like that's what baseball is, it's like America's pastime. And so I think a part of it should live in the past a little bit.
See, that's a lot better than how I described Oakland, which was like a CVS going out of business, so they aren't restocking the shelves, But
yeah, I mean, I feel like I still had good food there. The seats were great, obviously, because like you can sit wherever you want. The only thing that was distracting was the press box because there was just plywood up and like a tarp flapping. And so I was like, well, that looks a little trashy. I didn't meet any possums, so I was a little sad.
Well,
I hear so much from Dallas Braden about
that's reserved
possums.
for the press. Yeah. We
Yeah.
actually, Sarah, I did a broadcast there with Joe Castiglione. And we had our window, it wasn't open, but it wasn't closed. It was literally, it was worst case scenario. So I'm happy. That makes me happy. That makes, and there's a little kid somewhere going to their first game in Oakland and they're thinking the same thing. This is, same thing. Like this is great.
Amazing.
This is great.
Yeah, what are you talking about? There's a huge baseball field. It's amazing, and it looks super nice because now the Raiders don't have to play here. Like they get it all to themselves. Like I still think I still think it's up there, just nostalgic wise. So I'm a little bummed that they're leaving, just because I think the city could use another team. But I think that's still in the cards for the future and we'll see. But like there's only like I'm looking up at my map because I have pins in my map. I think there's still 10 stadiums I haven't been to.
Which ones?
Colorado, Toronto, Cleveland, Seattle. I was really trying to get there this last week when the Braves were there. The other thing is like, Baltimore I haven't been to, and the ones in Florida, so Miami and Tampa Bay, 7. I can't remember. I think that's it.
And you have some that I would say absolutely. Oh my goodness. Like Camden and Seattle's really good. And it's
the Braves are there in June, and I was gonna go because my son has like half a day at school. But I'm like, oh man, I think it might be too hard to go like there and back, like just there, go to an afternoon game, come back. I'm like, oh, it's probably too much.
Have you ever been to the All-Star game?
Yeah, I've been to an All-Star game. I don't remember which one I went to. I didn't go to the one here. I went to the All-Star game when the Braves had because I worked for the Braves in college in Atlanta.
Oh, you did?
So yeah, I was the one shooting the t-shirts out and
really
walking on stilts and making balloon animals. There was a really funny time, like that was right after Turner Field had been built, and we always did performed at Family Day for the players. So their whole family comes to the park, and we kind of entertain their kids after the game. And we had all these video like games to play, and one of them was where you could hit off of Maddox, Glavine, and Smoltz. You could like pick whichever one to hit against. So all three of them were trying to hit off of each other and even themselves, and like couldn't do it. It was so funny to watch them all like desperately try to hit baseballs off of each other or themselves, and like just whiffing.
That's awesome. First
Lots
of all,
of
awesome
whiffs,
job.
man.
Awesome job, awesome memory. Holy mackerel.
Oh man.
You've been so good with your time. I appreciate this. Two final things. The first one is what we asked everybody, and there's no wrong answer. It's why isn't baseball boring?
Why isn't it boring?
Yeah.
I mean, I think baseball is the hardest game to play. It's a really difficult sport to watch, but I think the reason people find it boring is because they don't understand it. And I remember going, again, I'm at the game by myself. My friend Chike, who's like this British actor, happens to be at the game. He's never been to a baseball game. I'm like, please do not ask me a question about baseball unless it's really important. Like, I'm glad you're here, but I don't really like to talk during the game. And in the 7th inning, he's like, quick question. And I'm like, oh, here it comes. Like, what's a strike? And he goes, what is it when you walk to first base, you're safe, but if you run there, you're out? Like, what's the rush? And I go, that's really fair. I think you just explained baseball better than anyone. But I think baseball isn't boring because I think hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do. So watching players do that with a peak ability is just incredible. And I think baseball gets a bad rap for being boring because people don't know the players well enough, and the players aren't out there. And I wish baseball did a better job of making the players and their personalities more trendy. There's also a lot of baseball players.
Yeah, but Sarah, and I've used this example all the time. It wasn't that long ago. I'm going to say 7 years ago, baseball literally wouldn't let players wear multicolored cleats with more than 2 colors on them, which is nuts. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. So. I mean, I think we should get some more days with like the bats that we had for the All-Star, for the home run derby and stuff. I'm hoping that baseball does a good job of that. But I think really figuring out like having a little bit more fun with the players and the people around the game. I think fandom went up 9% last year. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think right now we've seen a dip in baseball because people are on their phones, and they need, like, with the invention of the internet, like, people need things fast, and they feel like baseball just isn't fast enough. And that's on you. If you think baseball isn't fast enough, that's on you. That's a you problem. It's plenty fast for me because I'm sitting here trying to keep score, and sometimes something's already happened before I can even write F9, So like, whatever. If you think it's boring, go to another. We don't need you. Like, the traffic's bad enough. Go watch something else and stop complaining, because the people that complain are the people that bring a beach ball to the game. Like, I don't need you. I don't need you.
No,
coming in here telling me that's boring.
It's clear, because it's like, if you're going to the game by yourself, you usually aren't partaking in the beach. You aren't bringing a beach ball. It's
definitely not bringing a beach ball. I'm usually trying to bring a second stomach so that I can eat as many hot dogs as I want in private with no one judging me.
Well, a little known fact, the 18-inning game World Series at Dodger Stadium, Red Sox, 800 Dodger dogs media went through in the media dining room.
Really?
800.
Dude, I'm a big fan of I don't really like I don't understand why the Dodger dogs are so great. Like, oh, hey, look at this. It's a hot dog that doesn't fit on a bun. Aren't we interesting? It's like, no, you're not. Like, people don't want it's like a dinner roll wrapped around a hot dog. It's like the most insane thing. But the Farmer John hot dogs are actually very good. But I'm like, I love hot dogs just like on a summer day. I don't even have to be at a baseball game to like a hot dog. Like I don't only eat them at baseball games, but I try to wait so that I can like have the feeling and like the atmosphere. I remember Texas Rangers Stadium had frozen Jack and Cokes, and it was like the greatest invention
yeah.
I'd ever seen.
Oh yeah, they have margaritas in a helmet. Yeah, this.
Yeah.
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 All
Yeah.
right, so that takes out my the hot or not question. Is the hot dog a sandwich? That was a cliche, so we don't need to go down that route. But all right, wasabi cloud storage, wasabi hot cloud storage, hot or not? We say that teleportation is much hotter than invisibility. What do you say, Sarah?
Teleportation meaning like you could just
You
be
can
in another
just
place.
go anywhere you want.
Yeah, I would much rather do that because I
than
really hate
invisibility.
long flight. Yeah. So yeah, and then like if I can get there, if I can get to London 9 hours before my family and just have a little me time, sounds good to me. So I take that. That's hot. Yeah.
All right. Best answer yet. All right. Well, Sarah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Welcome. Yeah, of course. You're welcome. Thanks for having me.